All right. All right. All right. All right. Good morning. Good morning. What a great morning. What a beautiful morning. What a glorious day. And good day to everyone. And welcome to Truly Foundation and A Course in Miracles. My name is Oliver Blue, and I am your host for this session. I am your temporary guide, your temporary coach, and I'm delighted to be so. Thank you for joining in on this session as we start part 2 of our year-long journey of completing all 365 lessons in A Course in Miracles. We set out to do this back on January 10th at the beginning of this year, 2022. And we have persevered and we have not quit. We're still here. Why? Because there's great benefits in what we have embarked on. There's a tremendous amount of benefit. There's a tremendous amount of impact. There's a tremendous amount of expanded awareness that has and is continuously to take place by our being vigilant for God and His kingdom, for our being vigilant about the knowing of ourselves. And so today starts the first lesson in the second part of this journey, where we're spending the remainder of this journey. The remaining lessons are geared towards us. Now that we have worked on the undoing of the thought system that we had previously, we still need an operating system. And so what we're doing this last part is what the course calls the acquisition of true perception, or I call it the Christ mind, or Christ awareness. I call it, a paradigm shift, if we can use that word. And so what we're doing is that we made a decision that the thought system that we have been conditioned with and that we've been operating on, that had its basis in separation, sin, guilt, and fear, that we didn't want to operate in that anymore. That there was a better way. We knew that there was a better way. Every human being that operates in that system, after a period of time, we all come to the point where we say, there must be a better way. There must be something that I don't know. But if the knowing of it, that if I knew it, everything would change. And we found that to be focusing and going through the process of not being conformed to this world. That's how we got that thought system that we had, that was based on separation, sin consciousness, guilt, and fear. Based on a self-image of ourselves that we made up. It wasn't that based on the reality of our true identity as these infinite, impersonal, and self-aware beings that we are. Wasn't based on the reality that our creation, our identity, is the same identity that God is our identification. God is our very life. That God and us share the same life. It's not something separate, but it's a oneness that we share. So we discovered all that in our first 220 lessons, and we made a decision to work on the undoing of that thought system, which we have. And now we are embarking on replacing or installing a new system of operation, a new way of thinking, a new way of perceiving, a new way of being that is in alignment with who we really are. And so for the next again, 200 plus lessons. We're going to be installing a new system. It's called being transformed by the renewing of our mind, that we may prove what is that good, acceptable, and perfect will of our Father, of our Creator. And so here we go on day 221, lesson 221. And so we're going to you'll notice that the lessons will use less words. We don't need more words. What we're looking for here is a direct experience. Okay. We understand the promises now. We understand the inheritance that is ours. And so now, what good is it? What good is an inheritance if you can't experience it? What good is a promise if the promise can't be kept? If it can't become a part of your lived experience. And so that's what the second part of our journey will be all about. I'm just as a reminder, and by the way, Truly Foundation is a nonprofit organization that was established by myself and by my beautiful wife and partner. And it was established for the sole purpose of sharing advanced spiritual teachings, for the purpose of helping humanity to wake up to the reality of who they are. We are of the belief that the soul, there is but one problem and one solution. The problem is identity. The solution is identity. That we come to know thyself, as the poet said. All your traditional and ancient religions point to this one grand idea, and that is the knowing of ourself as it relates to our Creator. That is the goal of all major religions, to come bring people into the knowledge of who they are. And so we're using the resource of A Course in Miracles for this particular project that we're on, this year-long project that we're a little bit over halfway through. And so the Course is not competing with traditional or ancient religions. The Course in Miracles is not a religion. It's not a religion. So we're not trying to proselytize anyone. We're just sharing this information as a way to help, regardless of what your spiritual path is. It doesn't matter. We're just using this tool that's been downloaded to us in one of the most unique ways, as a way for us to, again, be not conformed, but be transformed by the renewing of the mind, because we realize it is the mind by which all things flow through. We have access to the divine by way of the mind. We also have access to this three-dimensional world by way of the mind. But it also includes a physical body so that it can interact and relate to this physical world. That's what the body is for. It's not who we are, but it's a tool that is needed to be here. You can't be here without one. Okay. And so we really cleared up that distortion about our identity. I mean, that we hammered that home about every lesson. And we come to the conclusion that we are not bodies, but we are free indeed, free from the limitations of a body. That we are not bodies, that we're free, and that we remain as we were created before the world was, as the formless and timeless being. That's our true identity, which cannot be altered, cannot be changed, cannot be compromised. Who we really are, it is signed, sealed, and protected. Because who we are is who God is. And so God is signed, sealed, and protected. God is not thrown off balance by anything that happens in this physical world. And when we come to understand that we stand in that same certainty that we can now live in a balanced life. We can live in a life that is free of sin consciousness, guilt, and fear. And so, as we move into part 2, as we make this transition, it says here that the words will mean little now. There was a whole lot of words used, and because we were going through a process of undoing. Anytime there's an undoing, it is heavy laden with words from a mental standpoint, from a psychological standpoint. Just like, for example, just up the street from me, there is a business that is having to be moved back away from the main road because of road construction. And so as a result of the building having to be moved back, they made a decision to just tear down the entire building and rebuild it just several feet back, based on the state having access to that property. The state owns access to certain property, to a certain buffer. And so instead of them trying to pick the building up, move it back, no, they tore it down. A whole lot of activity, a whole lot of effort and energy went into tearing it down to the ground. And they're going to build the same building, or they're going to build a building that is even more able to service their customers, just a few feet back. So there was a lot done in the undoing of that building. And so likewise, the ego thought system, the thought system that we were operating on based on sin consciousness, guilt, and fear, it had to be undone. In the transformation process, the first thing is to undo the thought system that is not bringing us peace. That the goal is peace. That thought system is not a thought system of peace. That the thought system of the ego, based on a world of perception, based on the belief in separation, it does not bring peace. It brings the opposite of peace. The opposite of peace is what? Terror. The opposite of peace, what? Is suffering. The opposite of peace is war and fighting. The opposite of peace is guilt and judgment and fear and sin consciousness. And so a lot of words were used and ideas were used to tear down or to undo that thought system. And now we're installing a new thought system. It's called the mind of Christ. It's called, the Course calls it true perception, whereby we will obtain the goal, which is peace of mind, peace with our peace with who we are. We're coming into a place where we are very comfortable with ourselves, comfortable in our skin, where we actually love ourselves, as the ancient words tells us that we're to love ourselves, we're to love our neighbors, we're to love our Creator. Now we're working with revelation. Now we're working with mystical, divine, ancient truth and reality that is able to bring about the result that we desire. We're not working with inferior knowledge now. We're not working with elementary knowledge or basic knowledge. We're not trying to establish a religious practice. No, what we're involved in here is reality. What we're involved here is with having a direct experience of who we really are. What good is it if we can't experience it? What good is peace if we can't experience it? What good is love if we can't experience it? What good is abundance if we can't experience it? What good is joy and happiness if we can't experience it? If it's something that only can be obtained in another place at another time. And we are most, like The scripture says we are of most men, we're miserable. You know how they say, well, in the bind, that by it's going to be better. Well, that's miserable. You know how they say, when we get there, when we get where? Everything is put off in the future that doesn't exist. We've already learned from part one that there's only the present moment. So hoping and believing for a future that doesn't exist, that's depressing. That creates anxiety. But no, we're not operating with inferior knowledge, but it is that knowledge that has been there all the time, but has been covered up by our own self-made knowledge, by our own decision to try to find a better way than that in which God created for us. It's called a prodigal. It's called going prodigal or being prodigal. It's called going in exile on the foreign journey, going to a foreign country, leaving home. But now we're bringing everything. We have become aware that everything remained as it always was from the beginning. It was always there. Who we are is always been there. What is ours is always present. And it brings joy and happiness and peace and laughter. It brings expansion. It brings creativity to us. It brings partnerships. It brings love and the extension of that love. It brings about, renewal and rejuvenation. We call it resurrection. I think I'm feeling a little bit this morning. And so it says that during this last half of the process of being transformed, it says words will mean little now. Why? Because we've got a lot of words. We have enough word now to create worlds. We have enough truth. We have learned enough of God ideas, because it says each lesson has within it the capacity for all that there is. So we have enough words. Now we need a direct experience. Now we need to be the expression of that which we are. And so it says words will have little meaning. So therefore the lessons will be very much shorter. Fewer words, but more practice. Fewer words, but more experience. It says we use them, we use words, but as guides on which we do not now depend. It says we use words, but for guides, to guide us, on which that we do not depend. For now we seek direct experience. See there? For now we seek to have a direct experience of what the words communicated to us. A direct experience of truth alone. The truth that is true always. Now we seek direct experience of truth alone. It is not so much that we seek it, but we seek to experience it. Because it's not like we're seeking something that's not present. No, it is present. We're not seeking as something that's in the future. No, it is present. So when it says seek here, it's not like we're looking for something. No, we have already found that. And we're just going to put it into action, put it into our experience. So it's one thing to know that you are the light of the world, to mentally know that. Jesus said it, that you are. It's one thing for you to know that God said that you are to the praise of his glory. It's one thing for you to know that God said that you are holy and without blame before him in love, that you are holy, that you're the holy home of God. It's one thing to know that. It's one thing to say, I want the peace of God, and really mean it, and to have the experience of it. But to have the experience of these things is what is what we are in this present moment. That is what our goal is, to experience these realities. In other words, to have a relationship with our inheritance. We want to have a relationship, a fellowship with it. And so we seek direct experience of the truth alone. The lessons that remain are merely introductions to the times in which we leave the world of pain. So these lessons, they are merely introductions into times when we leave the world of pain and enter into peace. So each day, each idea that we will introduce it's merely a introduction or a way for us to invite ourselves to enter into this experience of whatever the idea is bringing forth. This experience which has its end result in peace. So now we begin to reach the goal this course has set. What is the goal that the Course in Miracles has set? What is the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is peace. And peace is all-encompassing. It is all-encompassing. And so it says, and not only to begin to reach the goal or to experience the goal that this course has set, it says, and to find the end towards which our practicing was always geared. So why have we been spending all this time in learning all these ideas and thoughts and going through the process for these 200 plus days? Why have we been doing the practices? Why have we been practicing the ideas? It says, so that we can experience the end towards which the practicing was geared. And that end is peace. The end is peace. We all want peace. That is what we all want. Form is great, but form without peace. Ask some of the richest people in the world. Some of the richest people in the world don't have peace in their life. Some of the poorest people in the world, they don't have peace in their life. But some of the poorest people in the world do have peace in their life. So peace is not a matter of economic status. Some people seemingly have areas in their life that they're doing well, but in others they're not. Well, peace has to do with full spectrum. Peace has to do with balance. Peace has the ability to bring every avenue of your life into a place of joy and happiness, whether it be in our relationships, whether it be in our health and our wellness. It's one thing to be rich, but then if you don't have health, you can't enjoy it. That's no good. That's not a good combination. How about in the area of our vocation or our skill sets and how we bring those skill sets to the market to be properly compensated for it? So in the area of our careers, our vocation and job, some people have what they have, think they have great jobs, but then relationships are not right, or they have great jobs and they have health problems. Well, that's not full spectrum. What about in the area of time, having the freedom to have the time to do what you want to do? How about in the area of finances or money, having money to be able to do what you want to do when you want to do it and the time to do it? How about in the area of spiritual awareness, where you are at peace not only with yourself but with all humanity? And then what about the area of service, where you want to be of service to all humanity, to help lift humanity up? And we may have people that are doing well in one of these 6 categories, but not in the others. But peace has the ability to bring about a balance in every area of your life, and that's the goal of peace. So peace is not just a state of mind, it is part of it. Having a mind that is free from fear and guilt and sin consciousness. That's part of it. But peace is also having no lack. Peace is also loving yourself and loving each other. It is across the board. Jesus called it having this life and having it more abundantly. He said, I came that you may have life. What life? This eternal life that we are. And that's not something in the future. It is now that you can have this kingdom life. You can have the reality of your inheritance now. And have it how? Abundantly. And the only thing that stands in between the direct experience of that is a mind that has not been renewed, is a mind that's been conformed to this world. And so that's why we're going through this process. That's why we're going through this process. And that's a wonderful goal to have. That is a wonderful desire to have. And we all desire peace. So this book is about correction. This course is about correction. Not about religion. It's about correction. Correcting the way that we think, so that we can have what we're seeking here is true perception, so that our actions would be in alignment with what we desire in our hearts, because it is our actions that will create the results or the direct experience that we have. So thoughts leads to perceptions, which leads to actions, which leads to results. That's the simple formula. But it starts with the thought. And so we've been working on the thought life for almost over 221 days. And now because we have worked on the thoughts, now we're installing a new system of perception, which will now direct the body, which is like we said, the body's role is to be a healthy, serviceable instrument, to have that experience of the thoughts of God, the mind of Christ, and to have the direct experience of it, which is the results that we share, the results that we desire. And so that's where we are here in part 2. And now I'm going to turn over to lesson 221. Lesson 221 out of A Course in Miracles. So our thought for today is this. And remember, this is the thought that would introduce us to a time in which we enter into peace, that we leave we leave the world. Like he said, it's a time where we leave the world of pain, and we can do it anytime we want to. To leave the world of suffering and pain and enter into peace. It's all in our practice. And in practice, we experience the perfection of the practice, just like in any other endeavor. Professional golfers are professional golfers because they spend a tremendous amount of time practicing. Professional basketball players, football players, tennis players, baseball players, those that are in the arts, pianists, vocalists, all professionals. They are called professionals because they spend a tremendous amount of time practicing their craft to where they become expert level. And so here, in the most important part of our lives, which has to do with our identity, it takes practice. Where it concerns our well-being, it takes practice. practicing the reality or the realities of who we are, the ideas, the thoughts of God are what we use in our practice. Statements of truth, statements of reality, the laws of God, the laws of love. This is what we use to practice, to become what? Professions of our what? Of our craft, which is what? Our reality of who we are. And so, today's idea is peace to my mind. I like this because we're starting part 2 and we're beginning part 2 with the end in mind, and the end is peace. So the first word in part 2 is peace. I love this. This is strategically done. The human brain could not have thought to put together such a document that is so consistent, that is so helpful to us. And I'm happy and grateful that it landed in my space. And now I'm even more happy and grateful to put it out in the world, to put it out in the global community, so that those that are looking for a way out of their suffering, it can land in your space. And so peace to my mind. That's the goal. Peace to my mind. Because remember, all of life is lived through the mind. So if there's no peace in the mind, there is no peace in the areas, all the other areas of life. Because everything starts in the mind. So peace to my mind. Peace. The writers in scriptures, what's coming up to me now is that scripture that says, glory to God in the highest, and peace, goodwill to all humanity. See, that is the goal. That is the inheritance. Peace is the goal. So the thought again, peace to my mind. Let all my thoughts be still. Let all my thoughts, notice now, let all my thoughts be still. And why would we want all our thoughts to be still? So that we may hear the thoughts of God. That's why. Remember, God's thoughts have been placed in all of us in creation. And those thoughts show up in this world of form. Or God ideas show up in the world of form, in the form of thoughts. And these thoughts are conveyed to us not from the outside, but from within our very own being, from our own essence. It's called the still small voice in some circles, or it's called the Holy Spirit in some circles. But in reality, remember, there's only one. It's God. God is. Therefore, I am. And so what we're hearing from the source itself. It is your voice. It is God's voice. It is that voice that is only one voice. So it is your real voice, which is God's voice. And it says that we can hear that voice, and not necessarily, you not with these ears, you don't hear it through the ears, but you sense it. You intuitively know what is being said, what is being exchanged, what is being shared. When our thoughts become still and quiet. We learned in part 1 that the ego thought system always speak loud, and it always speaks first. Let something happen, and immediately that voice, what is motivated by fear, will speak loudly to us, and it will speak first. But the voice that speaks for God can only be heard in what? Quietness and in silence. So we're installing this new system of transformation right here. This new system by which we're operating now. This new paradigm. We're no longer being run by sin consciousness, guilt, and fear. But now we are being programmed and run by a system of peace. A system of certainty. A system that is based on the one law, the law of love, the law of God. And so it says here that we access that by what? We access it by what? Letting all of our thoughts be still. And so how do you practice this? And so there's only 2 paragraphs here. And I'll read the first one. And the first one is in the form of a prayer or a meditation. It is like we said in the introduction, that these ideas are merely an introduction to the times in which we choose to leave the world of pain and go and enter into the peace. And so I'll read it as is written, as a place of meditation, of prayer. It says, Father, I come to you today to seek the peace that you alone can give. I come in silence, in the quiet of my heart, the deep recesses of my mind. I wait and listen for your voice. My Father, speak to me today. I come to hear your voice in silence and in certainty and in love. Sure, you will hear my call and answer me. So that's an invitation. That is just a proclamation that it is time. What? It is time to set aside, to enter into a space of peace at your demand, at your decision to do it. So obviously it's important that this practice, this would be a part of our life or our lifestyle. Jesus who was the best at connecting, who was the best at living life, who had the most impact on life. This was a part of his practice. I'm reminded of the scripture in the book of Mark in the Bible, in the first chapter, verse 35. And it reads, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up while it was dark and left the house. Notice now, he didn't just get up, but he even left the house. Why? Because he was living in a house with several people. But he got up and left the house and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. In other words, where he meditated, where he connected with himself, where he connected with his creator, this is what he practiced. It says very early. It says before daybreak. It says he went out to an isolated place to pray. That was his practice. Notice now, he said he went out to an isolated place to pray or to meditate. So isolation is good when you're going to connect with yourself and to meditate and to leave the world of fear and enter into a place of peace. Isolation is good. But what we do, if we're guided by the ego system, is we go into isolation from one another as a way of punishment. We go in isolation because we're holding on to grievances. And so we isolate ourselves from one another. And it doesn't have the same benefit as going into a solitary place for meditation and to connect with your source and with yourself. Actually, we learned from the part 1 is that isolation that is motivated by you're upset or holding a grievance. When you go into isolation, it says that's sickness. To isolate yourself from one another is sickness, is what the Course says. Because we're holding on to a grievance. But isolation is good when we're going into a solitary place, or as it said here, going into an isolated place for the purpose of entering into peace. Early in the morning. And so we see this was the practice that Jesus practiced. So how do we think that we can, not practice this and get the benefits of our inheritance and come to know ourselves and to have that direct experience? It takes practice. Now do we wait in quiet? So when Jesus went away, he went away in silence. He said, and now we wait in practice. Now we wait in quiet. We wait. To wait means what? We are not waiting on something to happen. No, we are sitting in that moment, in that now moment in quietness. Knowing that knowing and being reminded of the oneness that we share, not only with God, but with each other. Being in that undisturbed place is where we call it. Going to a place to be undisturbed. But we're going there in order to, again, like it says, in certainty and in love and in silence. And with surety that we will hear what we need to hear in that moment. Being sure and certain of that. It says, so not only is God is present, we are present, and all of humanity is present, and all living things are present in that moment. Because remember, there's only one of us. So when we go away in meditation and in prayer and in contemplation and in inquiry, in a place of solitude, in a place of isolation, we're doing that for the purpose that we might hear what we need to hear in that moment. We don't go there to be worthy, but just to hear what we need to hear in that moment. It says, so we wait together. All the universe is waiting together in that moment of solitude and meditation and prayer. All of the universe is there. All of heaven is there. All of reality is there. All of your inheritance is there. And so I am sure that the source of all life will speak to us. I am sure that it will speak to me. And I will hear. And I will hear in silence and in quietness. Notice now, we're stepping away from a world that is full of noise. The world is so full of noise. Some people are not comfortable with themselves unless there's a tremendous amount of noise going on around them. We live in a noisy world. Some of us, we've trained ourselves that we can't be comfortable unless there's noise 24/7. Something has to be playing. We don't like quietness. Why? Because in that quietness, if we have not developed this true perception, what we're going to hear is an ego thought system that is full of what? Sin consciousness, guilt, and fear. And it's because we have practiced that. So now we're practicing something new. We're practicing that which is true. And so all is present. Remember what David said, it is in thy presence that there's what? Fullness of joy and what? Pleasures forevermore. That fullness of joy comes when we're able to hear the voice that speaks to us from a place of love, from a place of certainty, from a place of holiness. It brings the joy that we so desire. And it says, accept my confidence, for it is yours. This is what the voice for truth speaks to us. This is what your true self speaks to you. It is you speaking to yourself. It is God speaking to you. See, remember, there is no separation. There is not two of us sitting here in this quiet moment. It's only the one of us. My Lord is speaking to my Lord. My God is speaking to my God. You are speaking to yourself. It's all one. Equality is speaking to equality. Your divine self is speaking to your divine self. Your holiness is speaking to you. So we do this in confidence. Our minds are joined. There's only one mind, the mind of Christ. We wait with one intent. We wait with one intention. We only have one intention, not a multitude of intentions. So we don't go to this time with the smorgasbords of things that we want. No, that's not what this is for. Remember, when you know who you are, you realize you have everything. There is no wants, you have no needs. It says, our minds are joined. We wait with one intent, and that is to hear our Creator answer our call, to hear ourselves answer the call. Whatever you hold in your heart or in your mind as this symbol of the Creator, this symbol of the ultimate, the one, the God, however you want to name it, doesn't matter what the religion, doesn't matter what your path. This is not a substitute for your chosen path of worship. But these are practices, these are ideas, these are realities that will help help us to transcend this world of limitation and enter into a space of peace, a space of reality where there are no limitations, where there's nothing but the fullness of life that we all share. And so To hear our Father answer the call is our intent. To let our thoughts be still. And to find, not necessarily find, but to experience the peace that we are. That's our intention. And you notice Jesus did this early in the morning. He did it first things. He made it a priority. Why? Because he knew once he left that place of solitude that he was going back into the world of sin, guilt, and fear. And he knew that world that he was going into was filled with other minds that were asleep to the reality of who they were. But what he did know, and that is who he was. And so when he walked into that world of unbelief, his very presence that he brought with him from that place of solitude was all he needed to deal with that days, to deal with that moment, to deal with whatever arose in the day, whatever thoughts arose, whatever people he encountered. He knew that he brought that peace into the world. And that is the peace that created the miraculous, mysterious life that he led. That people said, wow, who is this man with this wisdom? Who is this man with this power? As though he knows God. As though he's been with God. And he had. And he does know God because he knows himself. He had no problem exercising the reality that he has equality with God, to the point where he says, I and my Father are one. To the point where he says, when you see me, you see the Father. And so now it's our turn. What are we doing with the incarnation that we have? This practice is important. He's showing us this. And so it says, our minds are joined. We wait with one intention, is to hear the Father answer to our call, to let our thoughts be still and find his peace. To hear him speak to us of what we are. When we get quiet, when we invite this experience of oneness and remind ourselves of this experience of oneness, it says that we hear the voice that speaks to us of what we are, and to reveal what we are to us as the very self-same being that God is. What we are is this infinite, impersonal, and self-aware being that God is, that we share. That's what the voice speaks to us. Reminds us of who we are. Comfort us with the reality of the truth of who we are. So that when we go back into our regular activities, whatever that might be during the day, whoever we may encounter, whatever news may flash across the screen, whatever voice you may hear, loud and boisterous, whatever attack, whatever fear that may come, we're reminded to stay in the place of peace, because we know who we are. We know who we are. And so, peace to my mind. Let all my thoughts be still. This is our practice for today. So twice today. First thing, take a few minutes, whatever time you think necessary based on what you need. Could be, it don't have to, we're not saying you go still away for an hour. If you got 10 minutes, you start there. If you got 2 minutes, start there. It doesn't matter. Remember, we don't operate in time and space. It only takes one thought, one idea, one word from God to change everything. But you got to start somewhere. So today's practice is peace to my mind. Peace of mind. And let all my thoughts be still. Why? So that I may hear the voice that speaks for God. So they can remind me of what I am. And to reveal to me this oneness that we share. And then that sets me at ease. It put a big smile on my face. And so as I go out into the world in peace, I can be encouraging. I can hold fast to that which is good. I can render to no man evil for evil. I can strengthen those that may be faint in heart, which is what Jesus did. I can support those that may be feeling weak. I might even run into those that are afflicted. I can help the afflicted. Say a word to the afflicted. Be moved by compassion to share whatever is needed in that time. I can honor, most of all, I can honor all humanity. Honor them with what? True perception. See them for who they truly are. See them as my very own self. Extend to them the honor that comes from God only and not from men. That's what I can do now. I can love because my nature is love. I can serve because the nature of love is to serve. It's to extend, it's to share. And I can do all of this, how? In joy. In joy. Why? Because the joy of my reality, it strengthens me. Why? Because I'm in the present. And in the presence, there's fullness of joy and pleasures forevermore. This is the way my day can go, regardless of what happens. And that's having what? A direct experience of my inheritance, of peace of mind. Thank you so much. This is a great this is a great beginning to a culmination of a journey that ends in peace. Peace is not at the end of the process. Peace is present now. And as we practice these daily ideas and give our time and invest our time into practicing these ideas in these workbook lessons, you will begin to feel and sense and experience and transform all of the darkness of this world, and sense that you are moving from glory to glory, as the scripture says. Not in the future, not a memory of the past, but right now, today. Today is the day that we experience this. Today is the day of salvation, of transformation. Today is the day of enlightenment. Today is the day of awakening. In this very moment, right here, right now. Thank you so much. Come back tomorrow. We'll be again sharing workbook lesson 222. It's been my pleasure to be your host. Peace. Bye-bye.